you've got a fresh blanket of grass that then most of it is going to make its way through the next year ahead. So that's really, really important. Welcome to The Art of Gardening. I'm your host, Melissa Lalo-Johnson, and I am very excited to have just a quick Q&A session about some of the most asked questions that I get. And my friend Ben from Petra Tools is here to help facilitate that. So thanks so much for being here today, Ben.
Of course, excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to pass it over to you because in all of these scenarios, I'm the one that's asking all the questions. So sure. I'm kind of excited to be on the other side of that. So I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah. We're first going to kind of ask or answer some questions or ask some questions about kind of mowing and lawn related things. So first of all, how often do you mow your lawn?
So mowing varies by the time of year. So in the spring when it's actively growing, so I do a fertilizer treatment every spring. When that fertilizer kicks in, and then it's also the warmer weather's coming, the grass grows like crazy. So optimally, I would be mowing every 3 days. I know that sounds insane, and sometimes I do hit that mark. But most of the time, I'm within 4 days and no more than 5 days. With how long it gets when you're mowing, you don't ever want to cut more than a third of the length of the grass off at one time, or you can cause stress. So, which stress is obviously less in the spring because it's not as hot as doing that in the summer. But I try to always go by that rule, which was another rule that I, picked up along the way of listening to a lot of different superintendent podcasts and grass growing podcasts. So, rule of thumb is no more than a third, which is going to vary. So, come the summertime, like right now, it's September 1st. I mean, it's been really warm here in Kansas City. The grass is not growing as quickly. So I'm probably around every 6 days right now. But as of tomorrow, the aerators are coming tomorrow. They're going to aerate the lawn, and then I'm going to do my overseeding. And so that and then we'll put a starter fertilizer down. So that starter fertilizer is going to do the same thing and, pick up the speed of the growth. So then I'll be back to about every 4 days. But I try to also in that period of time be with 4 to 5 days because I have a bunch of new baby grasses. So I don't want to be rolling over them, which also I will lift the striping kit on the mower at that point too. So I'm only using the striper like after the beginning of spring and then before aeration so that the grass doesn't get abused either early on in the spring and then after I have baby grasses in the fall.
Nice. That's awesome. What kind of mower blades do you use?
So I actually just got this question recently. And so what I do is I have 2 sets of blades that are sharpened. So I send the mower in for maintenance every, December or whatever it is. And they'll sharpen and put on the mulching blades. And so I'll use the mulching blades in the spring. And then I have another set of just the standard blades that came with my mower. So I use a Liberty Z Skag mower, and I went with Skag because they are very well known in the industry for the best striping, which is exactly what I was after. So, and I do have a striping kit on that mower as well, a Tiger Striper. So I do have that. But even without the striping kit lift or set down, and it's lifted for, early mowing in the spring, I still get, incredible stripes. But anyways, back to your question. So I go from the mulching blades, and then about, 10 to 12 hours in of mowing time, I will switch to the standard set of blades. And then when the leaves start to fall, so in another 2 weeks here, 3 weeks here, I'm going to switch out back to the mulching blades because I'm mowing, pretty often in the late fall to mulch up. I have so many leaves that fall into this property. So I'm mulching that back into the grass, into the lawn.
Nice.
So I'm running that, the mower, really often then. And then when it gets to the point where the leaves are like really crazy and coming down, then I'll use the blower and kind of blow them back off the property line. But
Sure.
So the blades are super important. And I mean, even recently I switched the blades just a couple weeks ago, and the difference in the cut that you get with fresh sharpened blades is ridiculous. I mean, it's so
Nice.
much greener. It's not tearing the tops. Like I always tell people, they say, oh, well, how do I know? Because they say about 10 hours of use and then you should switch. But sometimes that depends. If you haven't hit anything or hit any rocks or stumps or anything like that, you may get a little more time out of it. But when you cut and you do a fresh cut, if the top of the leaf blade is jagged, then it's time to switch blades. You don't want that jagged leaf blade because it can let pests and disease and things like that easily into the leaf. And then, of course, when it's jagged, it takes more energy for the leaf blade to repair itself. Whereas opposed to a nice, fresh, clean cut, it can fix itself, heal itself faster. And then you also don't have that browning effect of the top of the blades of grass.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that where they can kind of turn like brown or just like the cut looks super jagged, even like turn like a little like white or something like that.
Yes.
And it's just, not something that we want. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about like your mower. So what you mentioned that mower that you use, Skag, and it's the best for striping. Like, how long did it take you to kind of like come across that one? Or have you had like decent amount of experience with other ones?
Yeah, for sure. So previous to me buying my own mower, which was 2 years ago, I bought that mower, I was having a lawn service come in. And so they were using Wright mowers and they were using Skag mowers. And I've even had some companies come in with Hustler mowers. And I just noticed this when the Skag would run and cut. And, they were always very interested. The guys loved doing the stripes on the lawn here. And the Skag was just really top notch. I just love it. I love it. It's a really nice mower. It is so powerful. And mine is the lowest of the low of the models, because I have a 3-car garage. Obviously we have 2 cars in there. And then in that other bay, I have to fit a Kawasaki Mule, which is my UTV, which is pretty big. I mean, it's, the size of almost a small car. And then I have to fit my mower in there. And that was one of the big things with my husband. He was like, we can't fit a mower in the garage and da, 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 da. And I was like, no, but I want to be able to mow. So
it's so funny that it's you and having this and not your husband. I love it.
I know, it's so backwards, but, so I had to take the measurements and I told him, I said, well, if I clean this out and remove this, then I can pull the mule here and then I can put the mower right behind it. And it fits perfectly because the dogs need to be able to get back and forth behind everything. And the kids have their toys in there and all kinds of nonsense. So it actually fits great in the house. But one of the main things was that striping kit. So when the lines in my lawn, the stripes in my lawn are really, really nice and thick and like really pronounced, that striping kit attaches to the back of the mower and it's a very heavy weighted bar that has rollers on it. So as I'm passing with the mower, the engine is pulling the grass up and then cutting it with the deck. And then as I'm passing, the striping kit is on the back. It lays the grass down. And so that is essentially what you're seeing when you're seeing striping is the reflection of light onto the different directions of the way that you're mowing and where the grass is bending, one way versus another.
Is there any, there's maintenance it's very important to do for the blades, your mower blades. Is there any maintenance or anything for the striping kit?
No, actually, I've had the striping kit now for 2 years and I have not had any maintenance with it. Now it's adjustable to where it's a one adjustment. So I can lift it up if I don't want to use the striper because again, that's a really heavy weighted bar. So again, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be done with the striper because I don't want to roll that over baby grass. Or like I said, in the spring, you've got baby grasses that hadn't germinated in the fall coming up. Plus you've got all this new grass that did come up in the fall that's, coming alive again. I don't really put the striper down until I'm probably about a month in to mowing in the spring, which, is also super important to know because you should start mowing. I know this sounds crazy in March, and some of the best lawns are being cut early March, which is really wild. But it really does kind of wake the grass up, and it removes debris from the top level. There's so much in the grass over the winter that gets just kind of compiled, especially in a property where you've got trees and things like that. So being able to clean that up and get yourself a nice fresh start to the spring. And then of course using sharpened blades and a mower. But like I get on that mower, and when I pull the knob up to start the blades, I mean, it is like power. Like you just feel the power of this machine. And I mean, I love it. I take the chute off the side. So there's like a discharge chute on the side, the black piece. And so I prefer to remove that so that I can get closer to areas when I am mowing. And so aside from that, I mean, I just, like I said, I mean, and I've had multiple friends now buy these mowers. I get random text messages from friends. Where did you get your mower again? And what kind is it? Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just because it's such a good investment. And even if you don't do the striping kit, which I want to say at the time I bought it, the striping kit was an extra like $400. And, just the difference that makes, but I really would still be able to get really good stripes without it. So, I mean, like I said, does take it next level when you use it, but, the Skag mower, even at a minimum, if you're really looking to take care of your lawn and do it with and you want stripes, I definitely encourage people always to check out Skag.
Nice. And I feel like since they're, it's the striping kit, it's just a metal bar. Like there's not a lot to it. So, say you want to, splurge out on the really nice mower. Like maybe look at getting the striping kit used or something like that. Since it's not something that needs a lot of maintenance, it's just a bar, you know?
For sure. And there are people that make them. There are people that make their own striping kits.
I was going to say that.
It just has to be something that's going to drag across the back. I mean, I've seen people use, like mats, like a welcome mat, like that kind of thing, and put it on the back of rig it to the back of the mower just to help the grass lay. And that's the thing, when you see stripes, one of the things with my stripes, I guess the biggest difference with using a striping kit is that it will make your stripes solid. So when you're striping in a typical pattern, you're going back and forth and the wheelbase may be laying the grass down, right? So you'll get the striping on the outside, but the inside grows straight up. So it kind of messes with the striping action. When you use the striping kit, you get a solid, thick line.
Yeah. And that's just very visually appealing. We all love to see those stripes.
Very much so.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on a little bit to some other things. So, what's your favorite flower to grow?
Well, if anybody has looked through my pictures, I think that it is no secret that I love hydrangea. They are a fabulous flower. I have now 130 of them on my property. In in 17 different varieties, 17, and I'm about to have 19 different varieties. My friends at Proven Winners just sent me, Proven Winners Color Choice sent 2 new to the house, so they'll be here tomorrow. So I love them, and I think what really started that was obviously they're really beautiful. They provide a lot of winter interest, which is something I've really been kind of focusing on in the last few years, is to not have this beauty for 6 months, 7 months out of the year. And then all of a sudden, there's nothing and it's just a bunch of branches. I love that the hydrangea keep their interest and kind of change colors all through the winter. And they're just so beautiful. There's a lot of different varieties, and I have the most of what I have is a limelight hydrangea. The limelights can grow to be very large, upwards of 20 feet. I've seen, people say that they could grow to, which is insane.
That's
they
incredible.
Make a dwarf variety of that. There's the little lime, but where the heads are a little bit smaller. And the only issue I've had with them, I would say, is that the branches can droop. After we get some really heavy rainstorms here, if the flower's this big on the end or even this big, it gets full of water, and so the branch will, kind of droop. Most of them perk back up, but there is some level of that with them. But I think what really made me get crazy about them is probably about 7 years ago, I was at my parents' house and we cut some of my mother's Annabelles, and we brought them in, and they were green at the time when we cut them. And we brought them in, and the next time I went home to visit, they were exactly the same color, and there was no water in the base, and they were completely dry. And so that I was like, wow, that's incredible. I mean, they looked identical to being live. So fast forward to the last few years, I've had some opportunities where friends have been like, hey, can you do a wedding? Can you do this? Can you do a centerpiece? And so I actually, in 2020, I did an entire wedding that was constructed completely from dried flowers, and the fill power of the hydrangea is just fantastic. The stems that of the flower are so strong that you can use them. And I made a trellis for the ceremony, and I was shoving the branches of the hydrangea into chicken wire, and they were perfect. So, and then also using them in the arrangements to be able to just get a really big effect. They worked beautifully. So in doing that, then I just was really like, wow, you can use these for so many different things. It's worth the investment to buy the plant and take care of it and give it the good nutrients it needs to get it to where it is. It's just a plant that really kind of is constantly giving, and so what's left then is over the winter, and my yard still looks really pretty through most of the winter. I think that they don't really start the flower heads and things don't start cracking off until maybe February, so they really hold through. I mean, it's after the holidays and it still looks really pretty around here, which is just another huge benefit.
Nice. That's amazing. So we had one hydrangea specific question I'm going to read right now. So speaking of your hydrangeas, the viewer says, they look amazing. My wife wants to grow these, but I'm not a fan of how big they get. Can you keep them at the same size for their entire life? I understand they will grow from spring to late fall, but come winter, can I cut back to where the growth started in the spring?
Okay, so that's a great question, because I actually have a neighbor that I did her landscaping, and she wanted the hydrangea, and she didn't want the little limes because she wanted the really large flower heads. So, and I've read too, it's always funny when I read other people's things about how much you can cut back a limelight, and they will say, oh, well, you can't cut, you got to cut it back, don't do anything more than, a third. I mean, a half of what you're cutting is, and so with her place, she didn't want the hydrangea to block the view of the porch in the front, but she wanted the fill power of all the flowers. So now she has been in that house now for 4 years. And so what we have found works for her is to cut them back to a foot, and then they'll bloom out 3 to 4 feet. So it ends up being, the perfect height for her. It is definitely something to take into consideration. And again, there are a lot of different, back a long time ago, there were only a couple of different varieties of hydrangea, that were kind of popular that you could easily get. And now there's so many different varieties, and they're coming up with all these crazy things with something like an Invincibelle, which has a stronger stems to prevent drooping. So they're getting better and better every year at doing this. But there are different versions, different styles and varieties of hydrangea that if you go to your garden center and you see all the different hydrangea, I would just encourage people to check the tag and see what the height is, and the height and the width, because some of them are only 3 by 3. So you can find a hydrangea for the spot you need it to be, just by simply learning about the different hydrangea that are available. I mean, I could go on for 6 hours if we went through that, but it's just, they're very versatile. And if you want color versus my color scheme here is I love green. So I love all the different textures of the green that I have here. And I'm always looking to add new things that provide some level of green. But then I love just a calming, peaceful palette. I love a colorful garden. That's amazing, but for me, I really love the whites, the greens, the subtle tones that kind of blend it all peacefully like a painting, just very subtle hues. Yeah. And I found that with a lot of different types of hydrangea that you can achieve that look.
Let's actually hop back into some more lawn specific things. So talking about our liquid lawn aerator, or just, a liquid lawn aerator in general, is there a certain time of year this should be sprayed for best results?
Well, I think with these lawn aerators that are the liquid lawn aerators, I mean, it's really fantastic. The science behind it, how it is able to aerate and bring break up heavy clays and break up soil to allow nutrients to travel through and just add oxygen into the soil is incredible. And sure. I will tell you, I've had quite a few people order and use the lawn aerator. And I mean, they swear by it. I swear by it. And they have said to me before I even started using it, this was actually when I was just kind of talking about different Petra Tools products, and people had actually gone and bought this and then tried it before I had even used it. And the comments that I got were, I swear to you, I know that you're going to think this is crazy, but this worked. And I noticed a difference within 24 to 48 hours. And so,
yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts. And what I do is I use the lawn aerator in areas where like my front gets a lot of shade. And so I put the lawn aerator down in the summertime just to allow the lawn, it gets really dry and hot here. So as I'm doing the irrigation, the lawn aerator can help kind of hold the moisture into the lawn, which is super important for clay soil and hot temperatures. And so the mixture of those things just works together to help really soil condition, especially when you're doing things like seed work and just for the overall health of your grass.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Increasing that water holding capacity is huge for that, especially that clay rich soil. Yeah. I remember going through, a video of yours and just reading like one of the comments. Yeah, there was someone who's like had like this very clay rich soil, and they used this liquid lawn aerator, and they were just blown away at the results and like how they were able to kind of, just like get that soil back to, that I guess conditioned state where we want it to be, and where it's not super hard compacted, to preventing that water flow and the nutrients essentially from getting down into the roots and whatnot. So yeah, it's super, super cool to see like all these great results that people are having. So
yeah, for sure. And for people though that are just starting in this, that are just starting to, and I've had a lot of that because people see my pictures and it's like, I'm not just sitting inside the house and all of this is being done by other companies or people or this and that. This is all me. You know what I mean? Like I'm outside, I'm doing all of this. So if I can do it at my house, you can do it at yours, just using the proper products and the proper processes. And one of the things that I learned about a long time ago, this is coming up on 11 years of being here, was, because back in the day, I did have a ton of different people coming in and helping do this and that. And then I kind of said, I can do this myself. So the aeration is very important. So aeration is something that golf courses do. And golf courses use something like a large tine aerator, where it's just like tiny spikes of a tine.
Yeah, like
roll
a mechanical.
it over the grass and just put like little holes in the grass that you can't even really see. The machine aerators will pull large 3-inch plugs. And so, for instance, I have an acre of land. So for someone who has, or I have an acre of grass. And so for doing that, a machine is probably more, it's probably more effective.
Advantageous. Yeah.
To do that. If you have something that's like a more manageable size yard where you can spray, the whole process of the aeration, and that's the thing too, tomorrow they're going to tear my lawn up. You know what I mean? It's going to be destroyed. They're going to pull thousands of 3-inch plugs out of my lawn, and it just kind of gets it and tosses them. It's going to be a mess. Yeah. You can avoid all of that by using a liquid aerator. So that's something else to take into consideration. And the aeration as a whole is just simply going to open up pockets of oxygen and pockets in the soil to allow your grass to grow deeper roots. So especially you do this before you're doing your seed work, because when you're allowing that process to happen and then you throw seed down, the grass is able to grow better. It's able to really dig down in through the soil and get a good root structure before a winter sets in, because winter is so hard on the grass, especially baby grasses. So when you can give it what it needs from the start, and that is in your soil, just continuing to break that soil up and condition it and allow nutrients, whether it be from the rain or from adding applications, all of those things can get down into the soil and just help condition the soil to make it a better place for your grass and plants to grow.
Exactly. Yeah. That concept of feed the soil and the soil will feed your plants or your grass absolutely. In this case. And then, so one other cool thing to throw out there for these liquid lawn aerators is there's some places that you can't take a mechanical aerator, whether it's like a hillside that's too steep or through a fenced yard that's like small or something like that. So there's like, there's definitely other situations essentially where it would be just a lot more advantageous to use a liquid lawn aerator than trying to pay someone to come, bring one of these large mechanical aerators in and doing it that way. So lots of definitely good reasons to use that liquid lawn aerator.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, let's two more questions. So let's talk about the renovation of your lawn. Someone asked, how long did it take to renovate your lawn?
So when we moved in here, it was kind of a distress sale, and there were a lot of very large, either dirt patches, tons of weeds, and it was kind of a big disaster. When we started in that first year, we did a heavy aeration. So what I tell people now is, if you're going to do the aeration with a machine on a large dirt area, to make sure that the operator really kind of does it repeatedly in the same spot, just to kind of break all the soil up. So when you're putting the seed down, it's got a better chance of grabbing, especially when it's irrigated, it like starts to deteriorate those plugs and what's been torn up around it, and kind of cover the seed and help the seed, latch onto something. So that is really important, to make sure that you're doing that. Just the simple aeration process, whether it be liquid or machine, and the overseeding is something that, in my opinion, has to happen every single year. We overseed every single year. I just went and bought yesterday 250 pounds of triple blend fescue to go down onto the lawn. And, the thing is, the grass goes through stress. It has different things that happen throughout the year, fungal issues, whatever, and it will kill the grass, right? Or it doesn't always, live in those areas. So specifically, when you're renovating in an area that is a trouble spot, so I've got a ton of them, and what happens is they're covered by trees. They may not be getting as much sunlight. The watering, the sprinklers may be covered, whatever it is. Those areas, or if it's a slope. I have a really pretty good sized slope in the very back of the yard. And every year, if you keep up on those areas, if I didn't do that in those areas, they would be dirt patches. So every year, that's where you can kind of fill in and renovate, so that the next year in the spring, you've got a fresh blanket of grass that then most of it is going to make its way through the next year ahead. So that's really, really important. And I also tell people too, at a minimum, if you don't do any other applications to your lawn, at a minimum, do weed control. You've got to keep the weeds out. So once the weeds start creeping in, they obviously spread so quickly and they just snuff out the grass. So if you're aerating and seeding every fall, and then you're keeping up with the weeds over the next growing season, you will have tremendous success. I mean, it's crazy to me. If you look in my highlights, if you go to my Instagram page, Fancy Flower Farmer, and you look in my highlights, there's a before and after section, and it is crazy to see the difference of where we were before opposed to after. And a lot of the lawn was really repaired within 2 seasons. It looked great. I mean, even that next year, you'll see a huge difference just the next season when you're doing the lawn renovation. And a couple tips for that is, as far as timing, I know every single year over Labor Day weekend is when we do the aeration and the seeding. So the guys are coming tomorrow. It's September 1st. The guys are coming tomorrow. They're going to do the aeration, and then we will overseed through the weekend. And I like doing it that holiday weekend because we do have irrigation. So we can do this a little earlier than if you don't have irrigation. If you don't have irrigation, you may want to wait another 2 weeks or so. But that timing is always good for us. And you don't want to seed later than October 15th, because you want to give the grass the optimal temperatures for the grass to be growing is later in September, the beginning of October, when it's nice and cool. And so you don't want to try and overseed in mid-October, because you need to give the grass adequate time to grow and dig the roots down so that they can get down to get the nutrients they need to keep over winter.
Last question we got for you here. What is your best trick for keeping the lawn green?
Okay, so this is an easy one. I love the green grass paint. And actually, Petra Tools sells a very, very good option for it. I use the green grass paint in any areas where I get fungal issues, or if I have brown spots or where moles are digging. I just spray right over the track of the mole where it's turned brown. Where the dogs go to the bathroom, I get circle-sized spots around, so I'll just kind of walk around and hit it with that. Any areas that are turning brown for whatever reason, I use the green grass paint because it used to really stress me out that I would have just different browning in different areas, and I'm trying to take pictures and I'm trying to, do things like that. And so once I found this green grass paint, the first green grass paint that I found was through one of the golf course suppliers close by, and it was extraordinarily expensive, very expensive. In fact, there's no way I could even treat large pieces of my property with it because it was gone like that, and it was really expensive. And that's what I love about your green grass paint, which was one of the things last year when I started using it. I wanted to test that. I wanted to test how long did it stay on the grass. And, I don't recommend products that I don't believe in because I don't want people coming back to me saying, hey, you told me to use this and it didn't work and it was terrible. So I really only recommend products that I've used and that I really, really believe in, so that those messages that I get on the back end are, this was amazing. Thank you for telling me about this. And that's one of the things that's happened to me with the green grass paint. I think people love it because it's a quick fix, and you can also use it either early spring before everything greens up if you're trying to get an edge on the neighbors, or later in the season if you just don't want the grass to go dormant so quickly and you want to get another couple weeks or months out of seeing green in your yard, you can use it then too. So it's really kind of one of those very versatile things that you can do to your lawn to just keep it green and pretty, year round if you wanted to.
Yeah, and it'll last for months through rainfall, through mowing. So it's a really, really cool product that's adding a ton of value to people.
If you live in a place where there's tremendous heat, right? Instead of having to run your sprinklers and spend hundreds of dollars irrigating grass, let it go dormant and spray it with green grass paint and let it stay that way for a month. You know what I mean? Until it starts to pick back up again. What's crazy about it is when you spray it, it blends so well, and it's a great color green. I mean, I don't know how you guys formulate this stuff, but the color is gorgeous just with the specified mixture of what they tell you to mix on the back of the container. But if you wanted more of an emerald green, like if you go heavier, you'll get a really beautiful emerald green color. So you could spray that and not have, that's what's also been a big deal for me, because with so much area to cover, it costs a fortune to run these sprinklers. And, a couple of years ago, that's what I had to do. And now I don't have to do that. If I have a problem with a huge brownout, because of just recently, I had one that the sprinkler was off the property line and it was covered in, the woodland grasses. And so it blocked the sprinkler. I had a huge brown area that I was able to just spray it. I didn't worry about fixing the sprinkler and moving the sprinkler and then dousing this whole area with water for, a ton. I was just able to spray it and be done with it.
Well, hey, Melissa, I appreciate you, coming on and answering some of these questions from the audience and whatnot. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Ben. And just a quick reminder to everybody, if you have learned something today and you enjoy what you have heard or seen, please leave a comment below or like, subscribe, save, whatever it is that you wish to do. The little bit of an engagement goes a long way for us smaller creators that are trying to get the word out on the great practices that we do and things that we use. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and stay tuned for the very next Art of Gardening.